Welcome. Ziggy1X here with another NieR reincarnation video. And I have a pre-recorded video here. And what I want to do with this is I want to showcase some strategies for manual play, how to take timing into effect and other aspects with some of the more difficult content in the game. So you see here, I've got three characters. I've got my Celeb F66X, I have my Celeb Yuzuki, and I have my good old Bulwark EX Lavania. Now let's talk about what I just did here a little bit. I'm going to walk you through the fight, and I'm going to explain to you why I'm doing what I'm doing. I'm not also going to say that I'm the best at playing the game, nor am I the greatest strategist in the game. But what I will say is that I understand the fundamentals of how the game works. And so since this is going to be geared more towards newer players, sometimes manual play can be a little bit daunting because there's a lot of mechanics that are somewhat vague. So let's go ahead and take a look at things. You'll see here on the enemy bar, and you'll see that we're fighting F66X. You'll see that she has a debuff represented by the eyeball and the arrows down. This is a blind effect that my Lavania cast on her. You'll also see that she has defense or healing up, so she's healing herself. This is why this is such an annoying battle, because if you can't put out the damage, she's just going to continue healing herself back up to full. Now you'll notice that over time her buffs and debuffs are falling off of her. Now if you look down below at our guys, you'll see the same things. Currently I have defense down on Lavania, I have defense up on Yuzuki for 6 stacks, that means 60%. Lavania has 30% down, 60% up, which equals out to 30%. And you'll see that my Celeb F66X, that was a lot of damage right there. That's why you bring Yuzuki along. My Celeb F66X also has 6 stacks. Now let's talk about timing a little bit. You'll notice that I'm staggering, that the blind attack, I staggered till just before the enemy's attacks went off. The reason for this is because I want the effect to take effect right before the enemy starts their round of attacks so that it lasts the maximum duration of time. I want to use that blind, which has a percentage chance of the enemy missing. I want to lower the chances of the enemy hitting me. And you'll see here that the enemy sometimes misses my units whenever that blind, that purple ring, is around her head. You'll also notice that I'm saving certain attacks. I'm chaining. Okay. So Yuzuki is going to be my big damage dealer, which means I typically want his attacks to fire off last because he's going to be capping the chain. And you'll notice that I still, though, even with that, I made Lavania's blind attack the last one because I want it to take effect and I want it to have the most impact on the enemy. Now, when we come back to F66X here on the right, she has, and this is in part a giant flex showcasing just how powerful she is. But her character skill, it heals you over 5 turns or 5 actions. And so what this means is that it's 5 actions, not 5 full turns of the battle. So let's say, for example, I fire off F66X's character skill. The next 5 actions, your team will heal. And so if you fire off her skill and then your characters are the ones doing the next 5 actions, that means that your team will be healing while your characters are doing their actions. If their HP is topped off, that means that this is going to be a wasted effort. You'll still get the other benefits from the ability, but you won't get the full benefits. Let me tell you a better way to use it, and watch what I do here. You'll see that her skill is queued up, but I'm not using it. You'll see that Yuzuki's is queued up, and I'm not using it. I'm waiting. What am I waiting on? Okay, so I fired off my companion. Now I've got an attack up, and now I'm chaining my characters together. First I chain a little bit here from the regular weapon abilities, then I chain into Lavania, who has a defense break. And increasingly, more importantly, with these big baddies that we're getting, that defense break really goes a long way. And then you'll see me cap with Yuzuki, and Yuzuki doing max cap damage, okay? All right, and so I'm still waiting on Lavania's skill there until the enemy is ready to fire off their abilities. And you'll see them charging up there on the top left. When that when that rectangle closes, or when that square diamond closes, that means their attacks are now queued up. So whoever's attacks were queued up first, that is the order they will go in. Chains are broken because people don't understand that if the enemy has their attacks already queued up or is breaking in between, cutting in between your turns with their attacks, it will break the chain. You won't get as high of a damage multiplier. So you got to be careful and watch the enemy skills charging up. You try and sneak in your skills between the charge times of the enemy skills. Now, I was talking here, so I didn't have a chance to go over what F66X did. But when mine fired off her heal character skill, I did it right before the enemy attacked. The enemy queued up 3 skills. And so for each time that the enemy attacked, which would have normally been bringing my team down significantly, she was healing at the same time that the enemy was damaging me, which means I really wasn't taking any damage from it. That is the benefit of these character skills, like these healers that we have, where you can sneak in, you can basically interrupt the enemy's skills by basically healing yourself as the enemy is damaging you, and you really don't lose any health. And so you save character skills like F66X for those times that you really need that added protection. Okay, boom, boom, boom. All right, so I finished the enemy off. This enemy, again, is particularly annoying because she heals herself over time. So you need at least one dedicated nuke, one big daddy or big mama hitter who can just absolutely melt them. Yuzuki is a dark specialist. He's only good in dark. Okay, that is his forte. There are other characters that are good across the board, like Celebratory Yuri and others, where they just do damage and it's not really element based. Yuzuki has to be attached to dark. His pursuit buff is tied to dark. His character skill is tied to dark. Everything is tied to dark. Now, this is another level where we're gonna let's take a look at what we had equipped here. So first of all, in these Fate Board missions, you get bonuses for having elements of the same element or weapons of the same element equipped. Now, I also have on her, since she's a support, I have a memoir set which boosts my entire team's HP by 10%. Again, as content becomes increasingly more difficult, it becomes more important for us to beef up our teams a little bit. You'll also notice my weapons with both Yuzuki and Lavania. There is cooldown in them, and there's also damage up based off of HP or damage up based off of dark element, things like that. And I'm always using an EX main hand weapon if I can for damage, because the EX weapons still do the best damage. They have 5-hit chains on both abilities typically. They boost the element that they're affiliated with, the damage of it. Sometimes they boost the attack, sometimes they do other things. Now this next one I'm going to show you is more of a regular Fate Board challenge where there's 3 waves of enemies. It's a dark boss, so we're going to use a light team. Now, of course, this is an F66X flex video, so I'm going to show off F66X here, except she's going to be attached to light. Now, the light weapon she's going to be using is an EX weapon, and it's arguably one of the best support weapons in the game because it offers damage, but it also offers a chonky 20% heal as well as a 25% attack buff for the whole team. So characters like Celebratory Yuri, for example, benefit tremendously off of this because her character skill isn't tied to a specific element. It's tied to having an attack buff attached to her. It doesn't matter how big or small it is. It just needs an attack buff, and then she essentially doubles her damage. And so these weapons here, these are EX weapons except for Serapha's. It's her signature weapon that came with her, but it's almost as good as an EX weapon, and since it's a main affinity weapon for her, it's a spear, she benefits from having those auto attacks as well. So let's go ahead, let's finish this up, and now we're going to jump into the fight. And for me, these are more challenging fights. That boss fight actually wasn't terribly challenging for me. As far as the boss fights go, I would say it was one of the easier ones if, and the big if is, if you have a way of bursting the boss down. Because if you don't, the boss is going to heal herself. And my first time going against that boss, I think it took me 15 minutes or so, just because I didn't have enough damage and I was just slowly whittling her down. So let's go into the mechanics of this game. I'm saving her character skill on the left. We'll just call her Vanilla Jane for ease. And you see that before the enemy skills charged up, I fired off her character skill because now you'll see they heal and take damage at the same time. Watch this. Boom. A heal and damage. Healed 35,000, took 21,000. That means they're still topped off. Boom. Okay, so they're still healing more than they're taking, which means that they're staying at full health for 5 full actions. Now that my guys are doing their actions, I'm actually chopping away at her ability, but auto attacks that sneak in from time to time will also count as an action, so you may as well get your weapon skills and character skills off after the boss has taken their attacks and after you properly utilize Vanilla Jane here. And you'll notice that I'm sitting on my companion skills. Companion skills do a few things. They also charge your character skill. There's 3 ways to charge a character skill: by using weapon abilities, by getting hit by the enemy, or by using a companion skill. Those are the 3 ways you charge that character skill, which is the diamond that's surrounding your character picture. The character skills are typically what really make a character or costume shine. And so you want to be mindful of the ways that you feed that gauge, that you feed that charge, so that you can fully utilize and time properly the use of your abilities. Now, you'll see here that this isn't an optimal fight. I get pretty close to dying at the end on the last wave because I didn't go into the last wave with fully charged skills. I could have done it. I've seen it done. It's not terribly difficult to do, but it comes down to timing. But you'll see right here that I've got my Serapha, and just even without chaining anything, she's able to damage that. That's the power of these elemental specialists. They do such ridiculous amounts of damage on their character skill that you don't even really need to chain them, and you can sneak them in and just cap someone before they even know it's hitting them. Now you'll also notice that I'm using EX Hina, who is our newest EX character along with her brother Yuzuki. Great story, by the way, for both of them. And one of the benefits that these Dark Memory characters and the Recollection of Dusk, the Frozen Heart characters, have is that they are 25% resistant to their opposite element. So since Hina's light, she's 25% resistant to dark damage, which makes her extra tanky on dark levels. And so you pick your characters based off of what they specialize in. Serapha is a light specialist. She does ridiculous amounts of damage based off of her light affinity. So she's ideal against dark enemies. Now you'll see here that this enemy is charging up their abilities, and my Vanilla Jane here on the left is not fully charged. So let's see what happens. Let's see if we can weather this storm. Now I also have light or dark resistance on my team. I've got it on Serapha, I've got it on Vanilla Jane, and I've also got it innately on Hina. So that means that they're taking significantly less dark damage. For big challenges, if it's something that you have to actually strategize on and play on manual, you need to also not just focus on damage, but I recommend taking a more measured approach. It is definitely possible to burst things down, a little riskier, but definitely possible. But I prefer a more measured approach. I'm just a measured guy. So I like having a little bit of tankiness, a little bit of damage. Makes the fight much easier. You can just kind of cruise through it. And so you'll see here that I'm sitting on both of my character skills for Vanilla Jane on the left and Serapha because I don't need to use them because the boss is almost dead and I may as well save them for the next wave. So this is the final wave here. This is the guy that almost kills me. This is the officer. All right, so what am I gonna do here? I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna wait until their abilities are charging up and almost charged, and then I'm gonna fire off Vanilla Jane here on the left. Ready for it? Here it comes, boom. Okay, so that means that those next 4 incoming attacks, technically 3 because that first one there is taking a long time to charge, these are gonna be tanked completely by my team because of that character skill and the timing on manual play that I fired things off with. I'm holding my actions. I'm waiting until the boss is done. Okay, let's fire some actions off. See what happens. And you'll see the order I do it in is the buff. And then in the case of Serapha, her ability 2 is a buff, and then her ability 1 is the big damage dealer with the buff. And then I finish it off with Hina because Hina is, she's doing good damage because of her bold vigor. And so is Serapha, by the way, too. They both have bold vigor. All right, now let's see what happens. Now we're gonna start taking some damage because we're not healing anymore. But also another thing, you'll notice that this boss is blinding my characters. So this is a dangerous boss because of that blind ability. I remember the first time I crashed into this boss, I almost died hard because that boss was blinding the heck out of me. There it is, AoE blind. So now my entire team is blinded, which means I'm going to be missing a lot of attacks. So my damage isn't going to be going as far. So how do I plan that? Because now the boss is going to be blinding me every couple turns. And so in theory, I'm going to have blind up constantly. Well, I still got to power through my weapon skills because those weapon skills, using them, eventually takes away the blind. So there's where I got close. Almost lost Serapha right there. But now I've got my companion fired off. I've got character skills charged up. I'm going to start getting ready to go, okay? I want to finish this off strong, which means that in theory, I want to wait until I use my weapon skills, and then I charge up my character skill and I finish the boss off hard. So you'll see the boss's abilities charging up there. Now I'm going to fire off Vanilla Jane. Boom. And that again is going to tank the next incoming attacks, and it's going to top my team off. Okay. So let's let this happen. Didn't even need to do it because that weapon or that character skill from Serapha snuck in, and I was able to just finish the boss off, and it worked out just fine. So again, having a longer fight to kind of explain things through the mechanics, that was a lot that I packed in there, but it goes to show the importance of manual play, of timing your attacks, watching the boss's charge meter, basically seeing when their attacks are fully charging up and making sure you're getting your chains in between their attacks, because if they're interrupting your chain, then they're going to break the chain and you're going to be doing less damage.